Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video. This is a review and overview and flight test of the new local legend from Asobo, the Boeing Stratoliner. A bargain bucket aircraft. It's one heck of a lot of fun to fly. If you like the old-fashioned looking aircraft with old-fashioned looking cockpits, you are gonna have a whale of a time with this one. But listen, let's not dilly-dally. Let's get on with this video. So as per usual, runway 27, Huddison International, London City Airport. Live service off but live weather on. Let's give you an external view of the aircraft. Isn't she a beauty? She looks incredible in flight. You do get a number of liveries with this. I'll show you on screen. So maybe 4 to 5 different liveries. So choose which one you want. Let's take that off screen. I've gone with the area livery. I quite like this. On some of them you can see the fabric on the aircraft itself. You can't so much see it here. It's more like reflective surfaces. It does look rather nice, doesn't it? Like I said, up in the air it just looks absolutely stunning, I find. It's quite a rare aircraft. I believe there were 10 of them in general service back in the day. So you're not going to find many of these flying around back in the day. So it's really nice to have it. This is Local Legends 10, I believe, from Asobo. Nice to have it in the sim. Let's just jump in the cockpit. Probably best turning on my Tobii eye tracker, just so I can look around the cockpit naturally. If you like the old-fashioned, old-style cockpits, something like the Junkers aircraft, you're going to fall in love with this one like I have. A couple of skylines there, windows. Well, one at the very top, which you can't interact with. Not sure why you would, but you can't click on that and open it. But a lot of these buttons are interactive. So there you go, quick tour. Let's just turn Tobii off. Now, default keys, control 1 to 0. So that's control 1. Just show you various of the instruments here. This is your heading bug, essentially. You move this knob. If I can mouse down on this, I can tune it in. I've got my multi-panel attached. I'll be using that in this video. It's just more accessible, easier for me to use. But if you've got controls set up for heading bug, just move them and keep an eye on your compass to see where the heading bug is. There you go. So I'll put it to sync it to our runway heading, 270 degrees, more or less. Control 3 for your sort of throttle systems and goodness knows what. 4 radio and nav panels. These do work. I'll be showing you that in this flight, showing you a sort of how these work, and these work beautifully. And up here you've got your sort of OBS knobs and your dials. So when I tune into the radios and put it into nav mode, I can then sort of tune this towards the VOR or nav frequencies. Very useful. Transponder here. You've got an auto panel here, so if you can alter your altitude here. Press your autopilot panel, it should climb to that, no problem. I'll be showing you that later as well. If you don't like these old-fashioned dials, I'm not sure why you wouldn't. You've got a switch here, which you can switch from standard to GNS. Then you get a Garmin system. It doesn't quite fit with the style of the aircraft for me, but if you prefer to use that and you want to follow a course from the world map, you can. It's quite handy actually if you are following a course. Fair play to that, but I prefer the old-fashioned dials which I'll be using in this aircraft. So there you go, and let's just show you sort of engineers panel. Where's the engineers panel? There it is, control and 6. There you go, so you can keep an eye on your panels down here as well. So what I'll do, chaps, I'll just configure a couple of things and then go for a quick flight test. Okay, for this part, I was actually going to set this up behind the scenes. I think it's better if I actually do this with you, so you can see it's working. So it should work on Xbox and PC. Bring up your VFR map. Now you can use external programs like Little Nav Map. And goodness knows what. Why isn't that little... VFR map doesn't like to scroll in and out for me sometimes. There it is now. So Oakley VOR, I want to tune in on that. The frequency for that, the COM frequency on that frequency is 115.30. So you can use the knobs here. The outer knob, the big knob there, 115.30. The inner knob, 30. And to make that active, you just click this button, left click. It's now active. And I want to also tune in to the, let's just see, there's a lamb, or lamb. Is that Lambeth maybe? 115.60. 115.60. So that'll be my standby, which I'll switch to later to get back towards London City. So there you go, both tuned in. Come up to this view, default view. I'll click this button from GPS. If you set up a course in your autopilot, you can set up a course and then click on your nav and it will follow the course. But we're going to be following the nav radios here the old-fashioned way, which I like to do for a change. I'll link down below in the description a video on VOR flying, NDB VOR flying, if you're not sure what that is. Let's just reset that autopilot altitude back up to 1,500 feet. That's fine. And I believe we're all set. Just bear with me for 1 second, just doing something behind the scenes. That's absolutely fine. So we're all set up. Let's go flying, shall we? Now I'm going to throttle up. Release the parking brake. I'm going to let the aircraft lift off the ground itself. Now I did this before and the landing gears retracted themselves automatically. I'm not sure if that's a feature. Watch it as you gain speed. This is your speed down here in miles per hour. That's your vertical speed. Watch it, your nose will come down, so just get ready on your rudders. Nowhere near as tricky as the DC-3. Let it lift up by itself. Is the gear going to retract by itself again, or was that just something that I pressed mistakenly? Maybe I pressed something mistakenly. I'm going to press the gear button to retract the gears. Make sure my flaps are up. They are. And keep it in manual mode for a moment. Ignore the lights. There is a manual somewhere hidden within your PC Microsoft Flight Sim folders. Couldn't locate it myself. A sailboat typically will put up a manual after a day or two. So we can investigate that. As you're manually controlling the aircraft, it does feel lumbering like it would in an airliner. I guess nearest thing it feels like to me, I don't know, it feels heavier than a lot of airliners. It's got an interesting feel to it, but very easy to control and bank. Okay, so make sure my trim is not going too wild. Press my autopilot button and heading button. Should climb up. Did I press my B key to make sure my altimeter was correct? I didn't. It is now. Should climb up to 1,500 feet. Bring your throttle back a bit. I'm going to bring it back to about 70% or so, because you will start to increase momentum very rapidly, especially now it's got to the 1,500 feet. Altitude is selected up here. It's on my multi-panel as well, so it should keep us there. Theoretically, it does like to rise. You've got to be careful on this. I'll come back and keep an eye on my altitude. Just going to bring myself to the right a little bit. So I'm heading up 281 degrees. Press Control and 5. Yep, got that right. Now I'm going to move my OBS knob. Just going to move it, mousing down on it. I'm waiting for this to go to the 2, point up to the 2. Then I'm Noah, there you go. I'm heading in the general direction. Going to bring this line into center. And it will give us a bearing to fly to for the Oakley VOR. So it's about 230 degrees. So I'm just using my heading mode. Let me just bring you back to my default cockpit view to about 230. You can move your heading knob down here if you're on Xbox to move your compass, your heading mode down here to 230. Got the multi-panel, just seems wise. Now, I am still climbing. Am I still climbing? No, it's sticking us at our altitude. That's a good sign. Gotta keep an eye on it. Bring your speed back or you might find yourself rising. It's almost like it's saying to you, the autopilot's kicking in saying, I don't like this. You're flying fast at low altitudes. Bring it back to about 70% because we're already 200 miles per hour. There you go, we're heading towards the Ockley. Prove this to yourself, bring up your VFR map. And if we see the Ockley VOR which is there and our aircraft here, you can see we're flying towards it. Just keep an eye on this line, use your OBS knob and alter your heading to what this is giving you. Telling you to fly towards, and you can fly towards VORs very comfortably that way. As the altitude is maintaining, let's get a look outside. It's a beautiful aircraft. If I've not said before, this cost me just over £12. You can check this yourself on the Microsoft Flight Sim Marketplace anyway. Just over £12 for this. It's not highest fidelity. Compare it to something like the 146. Yeah, it's not quite as good as that. It's what's happening with my scenery. It's fine now. £12. It's a lot of fun. Bit of a bargain as well, I've got to say. Okay, let's now switch it back to that Lamb. I think it's Lambeth VOR, and we'll follow that. So Control and 5. If you do this manually, just click in this button here, down here, left click. It'll switch the nav1 frequencies, 11560, Control and 5 will get me back up here. I'm flying away from it, of course, because I'm flying towards Ockley. I'll just mouse down, wait for that to go 2, and then bring in that line for a bearing that I need to change to. I'm using the multi-panel for my heading bug. If you've got controls set up on your yoke or flight stick, just use them, it will still work, as long as you can move your heading bug. You might have to keep an eye on your physical compass. Multi-panel just lets me see what heading I've got set in. It's about 440. Not 440, 40 degrees. Bring you back to the default view so you can see the aircraft turning. So I'm moving my multi-panel. You can see it down here actually. I'm changing my heading. So if you want to do that manually. And there you go, you can see the aircraft turning back towards Lambeth there. Move my CDI knob, OBS knob here. There you go, you should see the aircraft flying towards Lambeth. And then of course when you fly through a VOR, this would turn to from, once you've flown through it. Won't show you that as it will take a while to get there. Oops, move my again, it's saying about 5 now, 50 degrees maybe more or less. There we go, and you can see the aircraft flying back towards Lambeth, so you can do VOR to VOR flying, no problem in this. Not going to in this now, I'm going to line up for a landing, hopefully successful landing. Let me just bring my throttle back to halfway, it's keeping my altitude. That's what I want to see ahead of me, the landmarks of London and the financial district, so I'm going to line up for that. And coming for a landing. Let's just bring you back outside again. So you can have a lot of fun with this and the systems for that low price. I'm digging it. I'm ignoring now my VOR. And I'm just flying towards London City. Gonna bring my speed back eventually to around the 120 mark. Deploy a bit of flaps if I need to once I get near that to bring it to help slow me down. Bring my speed back now, throttle back now to around 40% or so. Still maintaining my altitude. I'll take it off autopilot once I get nearer. It's going to get there in no time, isn't it? So there we go, flying back towards London City. Can't promise, I'm still practicing with the landing. It's not too difficult, it's just different to other aircraft. When you're banking, it takes a while to turn, so do try and line up with your chosen aircraft. And of course, like I said on the world map, set a course. switch this to, which make sure I'm pressing the right button there, GNS. Is it mouse down? No, it's left click. Yep. And you've got a sort of more modern Garmin system there if you want to use that. And you've got your autopilot panel there, so it's all pretty fantastic. And the views you get from the aircraft itself, I love that old-fashioned view. And to know this is probably one of the very rarer airliners out there, because only so many of these were made. Let me just bring in one notch of flaps there. There you go, you see the flaps deploying there. Look at the fidelity of it. It's not high fidelity, like I said, something like the 146 PMDG 737 or the Douglas. It's not quite to that standard, but for the price, I'll take it. Something new to fly. Can't wait to start live streaming with this. There we go. Now to see. Now things are getting better. Oh, I can bring down my gear. Try not to forget this time, Hodgson. Shouldn't do airliners I don't forget. When I was out in the Cessna 182RG, link down below to that video. I can forget. Let's take it off autopilot and line up with London City just ahead of us. Speed's doing fine. Just trim up a little bit so we're not nose diving. Watch my speed. I'm going to put my throttle back to 50% now because I've got flaps and gear down. Still very much playing around with this aircraft, getting used to it when it comes into landing. It's nice you can follow VOR to VOR, isn't it? Like I just showed you there. Or a course in New World Map. So I'll be playing around with that for sure. Maybe a video coming up about aircraft proficiency, back to basics video on that. It's very important to get used to your aircraft. Don't flirt from one to the other without getting proficient. That'll just lead to disaster coming back to the menu. You're not really getting used to anything that way. Anyway, that's for another video. Right, so see what I mean about lining up? It's very different to any other aircraft you've flown, my friends. Maybe somewhat Junkerish, but Junkers does have a slightly faster turn bank angle, I've got to say. Alright, let's put in another notch of flaps. Now we're coming closer. And eventually we'll get to full flaps to get good control coming in for a landing. Fighting the yoke there. I'm just going to... Actually, I'll bring the speed down a bit more. That's going to help. There we go. That should help. Now, what's our speed? Yeah, we're fine. About 100 miles. It's not knots, remember? These bars at the front window here can block your view of the runway. Just keep that in mind until you get closer, of course. Now, I want to come to my right. I guess I'm okay. Full flaps. And we can slow ourselves right down here. Might land a bit long by the looks of things. I'll come off that centre line again. Ah well. The runway's somewhat ahead of us. It's absolutely fine. Well, quite a long landing and quite a rough one there. Get your feet on your rudder pedals or whatever you're using. I want to come off to the left. Anyway. There we go. Come off to the left, my friend. A little bit tricky to control on the ground, but not too difficult. Nothing compared to something like the DC-3. Bring up my flaps, and we can actually watch them. Stick on my parking brakes so stop moving. There we go, so the flaps are all retracting. Still getting used to landing. I've only practiced landings for the past half hour or so. But lovely aircraft, enjoying the VOR, the oldie worldy aspects of this. Bargain of just over £12. It's about $15. Go and get it, chaps, if it tickles your fancy or if it piques your interest. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Give it a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.